Welcome, everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this particular week, I'm returning back with my my bonus episode, focusing on the new short story that I debuted last summer. My summer break of 2018. And in this particular episode, I'm focusing on Mahogany. And with Mahogany, of course, it's during the Harlem Renaissance. That's where I was an editor for the Harlem Renaissance at sweet101.com. So this will continue on where I'm releasing the full short for the month of January in 2019. Brand new year, brand new month. And highlighting this new short story that I actually released last summer and continuation from the bonus 2 that I released. I released 2, and for bonus number 2 is where again you have that scene where the phone is ringing. The character Tony is as a good close friend of the family, confidant of the family, a part of the organization that Bill Sands is organizing and a part of. Bill Sands is the father, and he owns a nightclub in Harlem and a restaurant. He has a family, a wife, Bertha, and a daughter, Jewels. Jewels is basically the lead character in this particular short story. And right now we're going to go ahead and continue on from where we left off, where last week Jewels and her 2 siblings, her brother and younger sister, was told by Bill Sands that they had to pretty much move on to their lives. So it seems like they're moving them out of Harlem from now. Something is going on due to that call that Tony did not want Bertha and Jewels to pick up. And that was bonus 2 episode last summer. And fast forward to this month, this year, is where Tony explained his concerns of why not answering that phone, and Bill Sands gave him some instructions. The next week of this month that I did showed where he made that decision to move the children for them to be able to go different places, as if he really wanted them not to be in Harlem. Something is coming. So let's go ahead and start off with that in this particular episode where we left off from last week. So this will be considered bonus 5. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So for bonus 5, this will for Mahogany. Bonus 5 for Mahogany. This will be week for January the 21st, 2019. So let's get started. Okay. And thank you so much again for joining me. All right, let's get started. For this week of my bonus episode of Mahogany, bonus 5, let's begin. For my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. Opening scene. Jewels, wait. But Jewels did not turn around, and Bertha got up to go after Jewels, but heard Bill in the study. Instead, Bertha walked inside and closed the door behind her. Bill looked up briefly and continued back reviewing some papers on his desk. Bertha spoke up with authority. She would not be happy once she arrives in Atlanta and socialized with the other women her age. Your decision was not right at this moment, Bill. He responded back, still not looking up to her. She will be fine. Once she arrives in Atlanta and socializes with the other women her age, she will be fine. Bertha decided to say nothing for a moment as her hands were grasped in front of her. Bill looked up again and noticed the stern facial expression. Bertha walked over to her husband, not removing her eyes from his. She spoke with a firm tone. Don't ever dictate orders to our children that affect their lives without talking with me first. Put her hand right up to him to stop him from speaking. She continued, Listen to me clearly. I have supported you in the past, and I shall continue to do so as your wife and mother to your children, but only if we are equally laying down our wishes together. I will not lower myself and be a silent partner when our children's lives are a concern. Yes, the three should have been on their way with their lives, but Jules needed a soft blow than the one you just gave her. I know something is going down with the conference to make these turn of events that affect our children greatly, but not to announce these changes without me knowing it first. What's wrong, Bill? And Mr. Bill Sands, if you ever try and lay down orders in that matter again, it would be your last. I will not be standing equally beside you. Bill, you will be standing alone. Bertha rolled her eyes before departing the room, leaving Bill speechless. Meanwhile, early the next morning at the train station, Tony handed Jules her last bag. She held it, not looking up at Tony. Her tan-color hat was flipped over her eyes, but you could still see some of her face. She was about to walk towards her section when Tony came up and touched her shoulder. She turned around. Jules, I know you're sad over this. I mean leaving Harlem, but it is not forever. I want you to have this. He placed an object in her hand. And here is a number of a good friend of mine while you're down there in Atlanta. Jules saw the object to be made out of mahogany and shaped as a medallion with a carved image of a woman on it. The medallion is of my great-great-grandmother from Africa. It has always brought me luck. For some reason, I'm urged to let you have it. Jules shook her head and gave it back to Tony, trying to prevent the tears in her eyes from running down her face. Tony placed it back into her hands and squeezed it. No, I want you to have it. Call my friend when you get to Atlanta. She will make you feel at home. Take care, Jules. She placed a mahogany medallion and piece of paper into her purse and started to walk away. Jules, Tony said. She turned around once more. Remember, you are a Nubian princess. Keep your eyes up to the stars. Heaven is watching you. Make us know it was proud. He smiled for the first time Jules could ever remember since knowing him. She finally spoke, but in a whisper. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. Jules began to walk to her section as the crowd of people immediately making her invisible for Tony not to see her anymore. Jules looked at the station clock and realized she still had some time before she would depart. She quickly found a seat and began to observe her surroundings. In her immediate cabin, there was not many people around, so her thoughts became many in her mind. She missed getting to see her father because he was gone with other committee members to another important meeting or the conference. Jules ignored her mother when she got into the car with Tony, as she recalled, and her brother and sister were still gathering their things. She didn't have the strength to talk to them, for her heart was still at the bottom of her stomach of this transformation to a new life in the South. She glanced down at her shoes when suddenly she heard a familiar voice. It was her brother. Jules, Jules, he said, rushing over. She immediately began to cry as she stood up. He reached Jules and hugged her. What are you doing here? I thought you would be getting comfortable in your new place. I couldn't let my sister leave without saying so long. I love you, girl. Jules let out a chuckle, making the pain in her heart ease up a little. Thank you, Will. Nami wanted to come too, but her ride came soon after yours. She wanted to give you this. He gave Jules a letter with her little sister handwriting on it. Now, Jules, this seems like it is not what you have dreamed, but girl, life is funny that way. Trust Dad. It will work out for the best. Suddenly, her time to board the train was announced. He started to help her with her bags, and they began to walk towards the boarding area. When she was about to board, he embraced her one last time. Will gave her a kiss on the cheek, and they said their goodbyes, and she went to her seat. Jewels could see Will out of the window watching her, and she quickly waved back to her brother. The train began to move, and Jewels to do everything she could from not jumping off the train and staying with Will in Harlem. She sat still as the train continued to move, and Will quickly passed by her window. Streaks of tears rolled down her face, making red dots on her blouse. Jewels had to swallow hard, realizing she didn't know when she would smell that sweet smell of Harlem. Jewels closed her eyes because she didn't know when she would see Mahogany again. Jewels felt as though she was going to faint, so she did what her grandmother told her to do in the crisis. Jewels breathed in deeply as she left Harlem. End scene.